All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our next lesson here. This is Toxicology and Forensics. This is for our unit or the unit Toxicology. So please take a moment there to look over the objectives and standards. And our desired result. What role does toxicology play in forensics? So understanding toxicology. Studying poisons is known as toxicology. People who study the harmful effects that substances may have on the body are called toxicologists. The science of detecting and identifying drugs or poisons a person may have used for medicinal, recreational, or criminal purposes is called forensic toxicology. Introducing toxins. The exposure of toxins can happen in four ways. Number one, ingesting toxins through the gastrointestinal system. Number two, inhaling toxins into the lungs. Number three, injecting toxins into the bloodstream. And number four, absorbing them through the skin. How people are exposed to toxic substances can also be classified. Number one, intentionally to treat illness or relieve pain. Number two, accidentally by overdose or harmful combination. And number three, deliberately as a suicide attempt or to inflict harm or death upon others. Pardon me. Exposure, and toxicity. Exposure and toxicity, I apologize. Determining the extent to which a substance is poisonous is affected by different factors. Number one, dosage. How much was taken? Number two, duration. What is the frequency and length of exposure? Number three, exposure. How was the toxin taken, such as ingested, inhaled, injected, or absorbed? And number four, interactions. What other substances are in the body? So the history of toxicology. Since 399 BC, poisonings have been documented with Greek philosopher Socrates as one of the first victims. You can kind of see the first picture, the top picture there, that's from the death of Socrates or the poisoning of Socrates. I forget the exact title of the picture there, but he was poisoned and it resulted in his death. Poisoning resulted in his death. By the 1600s, arsenic and cyanide were used to settle disputes. Arsenic, chemical element that occurs naturally in soil and minerals that is odorless and tasteless. Exposure to low levels of arsenic can cause changes in the color of skin, corns and small warts, stomach pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, numbness in hands and feet, partial paralysis, blindness, and a variety of cancers. And exposure to high levels can lead to death. In the 1800s, a third of criminal cases of poisoning involved arsenic because it was available in rat poisons. A method to detect arsenic was the Marsh test by chemist James. A method to detect arsenic was the Marsh test by chemist James Marsh, whose picture you see there, and was the first use of toxicology in a jury trial. Now, cyanide, very rare but potentially deadly, that makes the body unable to use life-sustaining oxygen. Can have a quote-unquote bitter almond smell, but does not always give off an odor. Found the burning and combustion of certain items, such as textiles, plastics, and paper. Also can be found in cigarette smoke. Continued history of toxicology. In the 1800s, physicians Matteo Orfila, I believe I'm saying his name properly, on the left-hand side there you can see his picture, and Robert Christensen on the right-hand side there, his picture, developed tests to identify the poisons in human tissue. And I apologize again, doing my best with their names there. So after this, forensic toxicology began its start. Forensic toxicology in the present. In the present, forensic toxicologists are concerned with the legal and medical aspects of alcohol, drugs, poisons, and toxins in body fluids. Commonly, toxicologists will work with pathologists to analyze body fluids from autopsies. Evidence is analyzed to determine if alcohol or drugs were a contributing factor in criminal cases such as vehicular homicide and sexual assault, such as testing for quote-unquote date rape drugs. Forensic toxicology can also include testing employees and athletes for drugs, alcohol, or performance-enhancing substances. Poisoning and murder. There are two types of poisoning. Acute poisoning, high doses over a short period of time. An example, cyanide produces immediate symptoms. Chronic poisoning, lower doses over longer periods of time. An example, mercury and lead, symptoms develop gradually. Less than half of 1% of all homicides are by poisoning. Much more common are accidental drug overdoses. Crime and drugs. The definition of illegal drugs are drugs with no current accepted medical use in the United States, such as heroin or LSD. Legal drugs whose sale, possession, and use are restricted because of mind-altering effects are called controlled substances, such as prescribed narcotics, depressants, and stimulants that have the potential for abuse. In the United States, drug abuse violations are ranked in the top 8 arrest offenses. More than half of the federal prison system population and about 20% of the population in state prisons are drug offenders. Statistics show that over 25% of domestic violence disputes are drug-related. Reports show that 81% of child endangerment cases are drug-related. Understanding controlled substances. There are 5 schedules of controlled substances. A, Schedule 1. High potential for abuse and addiction, no medical value, such as heroin, LSD, ecstasy. B, Schedule 2. High potential for abuse and addiction, but have some medical values with restrictions, PCP, cocaine. C, Schedule 3. Drugs with less potential for abuse and addiction and are currently acceptable for medical use, codeine, steroids. D, Schedule 4. Drugs with low potential for abuse and addiction are currently acceptable for medical use. D, Schedule 4. Drugs with low potential for abuse and addiction are currently acceptable for medical use, Valium, Xanax. And E, Schedule 5. Drugs with low potential for abuse and addictions and are currently acceptable with the lowest potential. Let me try that again. E, Schedule 5, I apologize. Drugs with low potential for abuse and addictions and are currently acceptable with the lowest potential dependency. Some opioids with non-narcotic ingredients. Controlled substances. Let's talk about some of these. So there's a couple of categories for controlled substances. A, hallucinogens. Commonly known as psychedelic drugs. Awareness is increased and the user's perceptions, thinking, and emotions are altered. Can cause panic and diminishes control. Examples, LSD, PCP, MDMA, commonly known or more commonly referred to as ecstasy. B, narcotics. These act to reduce pain by suppressing the central nervous system's ability to relay pain messages to the brain. Tolerance, and withdrawal can be produced, which is often associated with physical dependence. Some examples, opium, heroin, codeine, oxycodone, C, stimulants. These can increase feelings of well-being, energy, and alertness while suppressing appetite. Depression can also follow, and they can be highly addictive. They can be used to treat narcolepsy and ADD, such as Ritalin. Includes nicotine and caffeine, so even coffee and soda, sometimes these are considered stimulants because they keep you awake, right? And they kind of, give you energy. But, sometimes, they can also have some negative side effects as well. So examples, cocaine, amphetamines, and methamphetamines. Some additional information on controlled substances here. D-anabolic steroids. They promote cell and tissue growth and division. Can be popular with, you probably maybe seen some of these stories in current events or in the news, but can be popular with athletes who may use them to increase bone mass and body muscle. Their side effects, their side effects can include acne, increased body hair, baldness, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, impaired fertility in males, blood clotting, heart attacks, and certain types of cancers. Some examples of these are, I'm going to do my best with pronouncing these, Anadrol, oxycodone, and dianabol. And again, I'm trying my best with them. E, depressants. Slow down the normal function of the central nervous system. Drowsiness and slowed brain activity can occur, but can help relieve anxiety and produce sleep. These can produce side effects of slurred speech and loss of coordination. Signs of overdose include slow heart rate and breathing, which can include comas and cause death. The mixing of depressants and alcohol or other drugs can increase potency and health risk. Examples: Valium, Xanax, and Rohypnol, which quote-unquote is a date rape drug. Or can be used as a date rape drug, I should say. F, other toxins. These are just some other toxins that can occur. Number one, alcohol. Toxic to the body and Number one, alcohol, toxic to the body and can damage the liver, alter behavior, and depress the central nervous system. Number two, bacterial toxins can be found in contaminated foods and are poisonous to humans. Examples, again, I'll try my best, botulism and tetanus. Number three, pesticides, any substance used to control pests by poisoning them, but they can also be dangerous to humans. Examples, DDT, Alderin, dieldrin. Number four, heavy metals, very poisonous, such as what we've already discussed, arsenic, lead, and mercury. They have been used in suicides and homicides. Number five, gases. Examples include hydrogen cyanide used in gas chambers and carbon monoxide, such as car exhaust. And number six, bioterrorism agents. Examples include number six, bioterrorism agents. Examples include ricin and anthrax. Forensic testing of toxins. Labs handle the analysis of marijuana, other drugs, and prescription medications which may be involved in criminal cases or found in the possession of subjects involved in various crimes. A huge range of tests exists for the detection of certain substances, but to use them all would be time-consuming, so quote-unquote presumptive testing is done. So what presumptive testing is the substance is not positively identified, but the results narrow down the many possibilities. And this allows for more specific tests to be completed later. Further testing is called a confirmation. Can help identify how much or when the person took the drug. And examples, color test, microcrystalline testing, some of the examples there. Toxicologists in forensics also perform tests on bodily fluids or tissue samples to identify any drugs or chemicals present in the body of victims or suspects. Sometimes an autopsy or post-mortem examination is needed as well. Okay, so our closure. What role does toxicology play in forensics? Think about how toxicologists and others involved with this can use tests and other things to help identify the presence of poisons or drugs or alcohol, whatever the case may be, in crimes or certain matters of that nature, and that will help you answer your questions. Please try your best on the questions that follow and let me know of any questions or concerns. Hope you have a great rest of your day or night and hope to talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.